Hi, if you're joining us by phone or WebEx, we shall be starting at 11:30. Thanks.
Are you gonna be able to see us?
No, because we don't have the WebEx. It's just audio because you have to go to the App Store to get the webinar. So if you don't have that, I don't know if it costs. It doesn't say, so I just went to the audio portion. So the audio starts at 11:30 here.
Yes, hi there, this is Olivia from Waste Resources. So the WebEx app can be downloaded. There's no cost to it.
Oh, no cost.
Yes, correct. This is just the platform we use, kind of like Zoom. This is the one that the county has been using for some time. However, what we will be doing is recording this webinar session, and along with the presentation, and we'll be posting it on our website. And it's in our chat, but since you're on the phone, if you want to grab a pen and paper, I can give you the web address right now.
Okay.
Okay. It's a www.rcwaste.org /business/recycling.
Okay.
Okay, just waiting for a couple more folks to jump on, and at 11:30 we'll get started. Thank you.
Okay.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
Share my screen here.
have you got on that? Is this, not Windows 11, but Windows 10 or? Windows 10. Well, we're on target. There. All right. Start telling me what I want to know. Okay.
Okay. Okay, good morning, everybody. My name is Olivia Sanchez. I am with the Riverside County Department of Waste Resources. And today we have with us Sandi Salas from Riverside County Department of Environmental Health and Art Marquez from Waste Management. They will be presenting on the new recycling and organics recycling services rollout. So this particular presentation is being recorded, and we will be sharing that recording and the presentation slides on our website, which you can view in our chat. So we're going to go ahead and get started. And we do ask that you please mute your microphones once we begin. Okay. All right, so this really begins with program coordination. So the Department of Environmental Health oversees ordinances, contracts, rates, and waivers. Waste Management will be in charge of bin and cart delivery, residential services, commercial services, and contamination inspection. And Department of Waste Resources, our part is to provide education, workshops, online media, and currently monitoring of compliance. I'd like to introduce Sandi Salas with Environmental Health, and she will take us through this legislative journey. Sandi?
Okay, thank you, Olivia. Thank you, everybody, for joining the call today and wanting to get some more information about the letter that was sent out to you. So today we're going to briefly go over a few of the law changes that came into effect and are the reason behind why we're putting out new bins for your area. The first law that came into effect had to do with mandatory commercial recycling. So any commercial business or multifamily dwelling of 5 units or more, if you fall into one of those categories and you are generating 2 cubic yards of trash per week, then you do fall into the category of needing a mandatory commercial recycling bin. This is due to this AB 341 regulation. And that bin would be for recycling, for trash, for paper, plastics, cardboard, things like that. So there's different ways that you can comply with that, whether you have an additional bin brought to you, whether you are recycling on your own. We can work that out with the hauler if you prove that you're recycling on your own, you're having it done by a third party, things like that. But everyone in those categories is required to have commercial recycling. Next slide, or am I doing it? The next law is very similar. The category is the same. So commercial businesses and multifamily dwellings, again, if you are meeting that threshold, and you are now required to have a commercial organic bin. So any organic material, yard waste, this now includes food waste, tree trimmings, grass clippings, things like that. That would go into a organic bin. And next slide. So anyone who falls into those categories, and if you have, so you're a food facility or a restaurant, some type of storefront that has people who consume food or beverages on site, You will also not only be segregating your trash in the back of the house and having 3 bins. So for regular trash, recycling, for paper, plastic products, and then also organic recycling. In the back, you're also going to have something in the front of the house so that your customers can separate the food waste in the front of the house. Next slide. And we are all making these changes. It's required by the state, and different state laws come into effect to protect our environment. And one of the biggest things going on, the short-lived climate pollutants. So landfills particularly generate a lot of methane. When organic material in that landfill breaks down, it produces methane, which goes into the environment. So the goal to protect our environment is to reduce that methane emissions. So we can do that by wasting less and sending less material to our landfill altogether, and reducing that organic matter. So we're going to make sure we're separating our waste and sending it to different waste streams, maybe different facilities to process that material so that it doesn't end up in the landfill. So this slide here is just kind of going through the timeline of these different laws coming into effect, what the goals are, and how we're going to be progressing to achieve this goal. So by 2020, we had wanted to meet the goal of reducing our organic waste by 50%. And now moving towards 2025, we're going to also reduce that to 75% less organic material going to the landfill. And if you have like a food facility or a restaurant and you have food that can still be edible at the end of the day, we don't want you to waste that and dispose of it or throw it away, but find a source to send that to, whether that's a food bank, partnering up with some type of facility that can still use that product and feed people, whether it's people in need, shelters and things like that, or if it's something that you can just sell at another facility, it's still edible and usable, but maybe just was something that was going to be discarded by the end of the day. We want to rescue that and not put that to the landfill. So there's different things that we're meeting with this Senate Bill 1383, short-lived climate pollutants. Next slide. As Olivia mentioned, Riverside County Environmental Health, we are in charge of setting some of the ordinances for solid waste collection for the unincorporated area of the county. So this past year, we updated our solid waste collection ordinance, the compulsory collection. It's ordinance 745. And we updated the language to include these different law changes so that we could all be in compliance. And that specifically now states that everyone, commercial and residential, will have a 3-container system. So we will get to the residential level at a certain point of actually rolling out the bins, but this presentation specifically for commercial businesses and multifamily dwellings. So you will have 3 bins, a green container for organic waste, a blue container for your paper, plastic, recyclable waste, and then a gray container for all other waste streams that are not recyclable in one of the other 2 categories. You may qualify for a waiver, so we'll talk about that a little more on the next slide. But if you do need a waiver, you will contact our department first so that we can see what type of waiver that you're in need of, give you the application, and then work with the hauler to see if that's something that we can get approved for you. Next slide. There will be some changes to your service. Obviously, you'll get an additional bin if you qualify and meet these categories. There could be possibly different change in the delivery day or time of the day that these are getting picked up. There will be some changes in the rates, which were also adjusted and approved this last July by our Board of Supervisors to include the different bins and waste streams that we are all accounting for now. And if you, again, need a waiver, you would contact our department. If you're thinking that you can self-haul your trash all on your own, or maybe you were in the past and you want to continue doing that, you do need to notify our department with environmental health. And the contact information will be at the end of the presentation so that you can get that information to us so that we can see if you need an adjustment or a correction to your service. Next slide. And again, kind of just the same thing. we are doing the waiver. So make sure you contact our departments. The different possible categories could be self-hauling, minimal space. You don't have enough space to add an additional bin or 2 bins, depending on what you already had at your complex or your facility parking area. If there's not enough room in that enclosure to include another bin, notify us so that we can work with your hauler and see the different options for you. And then also, if you're not generating enough organic waste, then you would let us know so that we can see if you qualify and can possibly not have that bin as well. Next slide. This I'll hand over to Art with Waste Management so he can go on a little bit more of the specifics.
Thank you, Sandy. Good morning, everyone. I just want to thank everyone for having me here today. It's always a great opportunity to partner with the county and get in front of this of what's coming. There's a lot of changes. We understand they're not easy. So any opportunity we have to partner with you guys is greatly appreciated. Thank you. So as you can see here on this slide, this briefly describes the bundled rates, and they actually do vary by franchise area. So best thing you can do is call into customer service. That way you can get the rates for your franchise area. But the bundle rate is intended to essentially help you become compliant in what the state is mandating. So whether it's for 341, 1826, or the upcoming 1883, these bundle rates are intended to help you become compliant. So with that being said, as you can see, you have a 96-gallon recycling cart, a 64-gallon organics, and then the trash containers, especially since we're talking about commercial accounts, those can vary. We've got the 2, 3, or 4 cubic yard trash bins, which are displayed in the picture there. So if you have questions or concerns about the level of service you're interested in, we can also set up what's called a waste audit. We will gladly have a discussion with you over the phone as far as what your services look like currently, what you expect them to look like, and if it gets a little more complicated than that, we're even willing to go out and do an on-site audit where we look at exactly what you're throwing away and what can be recycled. That way we can help you understand what type of level of service best is applicable for you. So again, that's a waste audit that's free to our customers. So if you have any questions, if that's something we're not able to address over the phone, we're more than happy to go in person. Next slide, please. This is just a brief overview of the timeline of the rollout. So June and July, there were commercial workshops online and pre-recorded that can be accessed for anyone looking for more information. Started in July, Sandy briefly displayed as well, is that the new commercial accounts will receive the bundle service automatically. And again, this is to help you become compliant. Typically, it's the bare minimum bundle rate. That way you have the recycling, your organics cart, and whatever commercial cart you were looking for. Come late fall, we're looking for cart distribution for existing businesses. So for those that don't have recycling organics, we're looking to roll that out for them. And starting next year, we're looking at the residential cart distribution. So this will eventually go on to residential. We're hoping to prepare for that coming 2022. We understand there's obstacles with what's going on now with shipping, with COVID. So all that is subject to change, but that is the current plan as of right now. And before we move on from this, there's another great resource that I like to push out there for our customers to utilize. It's the Recycle Right Waste Management website. If you take a visit to the Recycle Right website, you'll get a lot of great resources of flyers and labels that you can actually put on the containers of your bin for customers or employees that are not necessarily sure of what goes in each container. We have that, and it's a great resource for business owners to utilize as well, so they can become up to speed on what they can throw away properly. All right.
Art, can you provide us with that that website address, and I'll put it into the chat?
Absolutely. So it's Waste Management Recycle Right. So if you do wmrecycleright.com, you'll be able to access it.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Okay, and I'm going to bring back Sandy to conclude this presentation.
Okay, So what we talked about today were the things that are happening and are now current requirements from the state that we are implementing in the county to make sure everyone is in compliance. Mandatory commercial recycling bins and mandatory commercial organic recycling bins. So our future goal is going to continue, and we're going to carry out the roles with the short-lived climate pollutant bill 1383. Our areas of concern would be our food waste, making sure that we generate less food waste, and then the food waste that we do have is diverted from the landfills and processed someplace else or made into compost, things like that, so that it's not going into the landfill. We are going to be working on food rescue as well, like I was mentioning, to try to give a place and have that food go to someone and be consumed by someone instead of being thrown away. We will work with all of our customers and the public with the unincorporated area to make sure everyone is in compliance. And then there will be more educational tools and outreach as far as making sure that you get there. And if there is any enforcement that has to happen, that will come from our department. Hopefully we just do a lot of education and can reach out to you to make those things happen and work with you. And there isn't anything that you have to worry about as far as enforcement. But that is what we're working towards, and that's the goal for the county. The next slide, please. Here's everyone's contacts, like the 3 different departments and agencies involved in this rollout of the new service bins. So of course you have Waste Management, who is your service provider, Department of Environmental Health, and we oversee the contract agreement with the franchise haulers, as well as processing all the waivers for the unincorporated areas. And the Department of Waste Resources, they have a lot of educational tools and outreach as far as educating you on what trash goes where, what are these new laws, how to recycle, things like that. So everybody's contact is there if you need it. And the next slide, I think, has all the resources. Yes. So if you want to further read all the details of all the laws, Senate bills that have been discussed and briefly reviewed today, you have the information there. And again, the different county resources that have different educational options for you are provided here as well. Email to the lea@rivco.org if you are needing a waiver or you think they qualify for a waiver, and then we can communicate with you that way and send you an application. And I did notice there's a question if there is a fee for the waiver, and the answer is no, not at this time. There is not a fee to process the waiver. And then I don't know if there are any other questions that
There was one more question. Will Rivco Waste Resources provide tech assistance on commercial level composting? So we only really provide assistance to those that are backyard composting. But Sandy or Art, do you want to field the question in regards to commercial type composting?
Commercial type composting, depending on the source, the feedstock, what you're taking, and how much you're producing, would go through our department process, possibly to get a permit from the state, from CalRecycle. So contact me separately away from this presentation so we can get more details and give you the information needed. Possibly you would need a permit, maybe not. So we just need to get the information from you. It's the same, the lea@rivco.org email, and we can talk further about that.
Hey.
Thank you.
Well, of course. I don't see any other questions. Does anybody have anything that they would like to ask now? Otherwise, again, this presentation, you can view it on our website, and we'll put the rest of the slides up there as well. And if you know somebody who would like to know more about this, then you can certainly direct them there.
Question.
Sure.
Basically, is the process for looking at the waiver it begins with the Rivco Waste Resources? Is that correct?
With the LEA at rivco.org, that goes to environmental health, and we will start the process through our departments.
And I'm sorry, I got here late, so I don't know. Your department is?
Environmental health.
Environmental health. Okay.
Yes.
LEA Rivco Waste Resources. Is that the website?
No, and our website is different, but the email you should send it to is LEA at
Okay.
rivco.org.
Rivco.org. Oh.
Yes, and then we can talk to you about your location, what you think you might qualify for. We'll send you an application and can work with you from there and include your hauler as well.
And will you also then, does Rivco Waste Resources or does Environmental Health provide an on-site audit prior to going to Waste Management, which is our hauler? Do you provide audit assistance?
It would probably be a joint assistance with environmental health and your hauler, depending on what's needed. But yeah, we would definitely want to do a site assessment before providing a new bin or taking, so you don't want to repeat work, to drop a bin and then take it away. We're going to assess you first before making any changes. And we're doing our best to work with the hauler to stay on top of that so we don't have to, have corrections like that.
Right. Well, we have 14 3-yard green dumpsters and 7 white 3-yard recycling dumpsters, and then a multitude of sites, and we have a cafe and a number of other things that we need to look at. And so I think,
because you might think that you need a waiver for one of the services.
Well, possibly, and that's the question of how to look at that and seeing, or some technical assistance on how best to reduce the organic waste. We do a lot of green waste recycling. We haven't used organic waste recycling for residentials, which is what you're introducing here with this legislation. And so looking at ways that we might accommodate that. And that's when I raised a question regarding commercial scale. I don't mean to commercial composting, but a commercial scale where you have a large residential community wanting to compost as much as they can of the organic waste on site and reutilize for landscaping or for whatever. So
correct. Right. Yeah, we can go over the requirements, but you can do like a community composting as long as it's kept under a certain size. If it goes over a certain, it's 750 square feet and 100 cubic yards of material. If it goes over that, then it would require a permit, but there is ways you can do a community composting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the information that we need. That's the kind of stuff. I want to say technical assistance. That's the kind of thing I think that we need to look at as alternatives or options that we might consider.
Okay, and then yeah, we would also I would copy or include Art on the email string just in case if he has extra information, and then it can also start to look into the specifics of your account because he would know that better. But we would work together on it. Yes.
Okay, good.
And if if you just start it by sending the email to the LEA, then we can jump in from there and help you out.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for that question. And we have one more, which was, can we put soil in the compost bins or plants with soil into those compost bins?
Art, do you know specifically? I think it's a yes.
I would have to get confirmation on that. I think it's a yes as well, but again, I'd probably have to look further into it because for the general part, it's the food waste that we're thinking if you're throwing in there. But if you're throwing something already with soil, that kind of throws me off. So I would get confirmation as well.
I know the plant, like any green material, like it would all be included in the organic bin, but I don't know necessarily about just soil. So I have to clarify that one.
Soil could tend to be very heavy. So if we're just talking about a little bit of soil that's sort of stuck to root balls or things like that, probably not a big deal.
Probably not.
But for, a 5-pound bag of soil, that maybe is dry or compost that you just don't want to use anymore, I don't think that would be the most appropriate, but Waste Management will get all their information back to everybody.
And we have a great flyer on the Waste Management Recycle Right website that actually simplifies organics recycling. So it'll actually group organics into 5 groups. So if it doesn't fall within one of those groups, it's it's a good indication that it will not be able to be thrown in there for compost. So I just really recommend that website as well.
I have a question.
Sure.
This question is for Art. Since I got this letter, it's for multi-family residential dwellings, and we live out in the rural area in Sage. So, Art, were you saying that our 3-bin collection service really isn't going to roll out till next year, 2022? Is that what I understood you say?
Are you residential, ma'am?
Yes, we're residential, and we live out in Sage. And right now we have a big green dumpster that everybody out here in Sage uses dumpsters.
Okay. Yes, then you did hear that correctly. For residential, they're planning to roll that out next year.
Next year.
That's correct.
Okay, so you'll have another one of these webinars explaining how that's going to work out here in the rural areas where we live.
I believe there'll be more communication and education that's going to be set up. Before you get any type of containers or any type of system, there will be a letter that is sent out as well. So it's not, we won't just drop off any type of carts or containers without any type of
Okay,
note.
good. That's what we were concerned about, because this letter came to everybody out here.
Okay.
And so that's why we're listening to this webinar. But just want to understand, so next year is when we need to be concerned about this 3-bin process.
Yes.
Okay,
But
perfect. Thank you.
You're
just
welcome.
if she already got the letter, she may be on the list to already be on track for the rollout. So we probably need to get her info so that we can update that, so she isn't included now and is going to be included later.
That's a great point, Sandy. So I think because they share the commercial bin waste bin, that's why they're getting the letter right. But if they are residential with the residential cans, it's those situations where maybe the letter may not apply to them yet. But absolutely, if you could just please send me an email with your information, that way I can look into it further.
Thank you.
Oh, okay, yeah, because all of us out here, everybody has their own green dumpster. The homes out here where we live. Okay, so what is your email, Art?
That'll be A for Art, MARQUE, the number 6 at WM.com.
WN.com.
WM for Waste Management.
Okay. Oh, WM.com.
Yes, ma'am.
What type of information do they want?
You just want our address, correct?
Yes, and then that way I can look at what type of services you guys currently have, and then that way I can look into the letter that you received.
All right, sounds great. Thank you.
Of course, thank you.
And that would be the best advice for any of your other neighbors or in that area if you happen to talk to them. If they're not sure they are residential, they should send an email to Art, or you could email to the LEA, because I would pass that along to Art as well. We work together on those accounts or inquiries. So just let anyone know if they're residential, they need to contact one of us so we can get that looked into and corrected if needed.
Perfect.
Okay.
Oh, that's fine.
Okay, thank you very much for that question. Anyone else at this time? Okay, well, I want to thank everyone for being on the call, and for Sandy and Art for explaining further what's happening with the recycling and organics rollout program. And again, any questions or anything, please look to the links in the chat to make those contacts, and we will post the information. Thank you all so much, and have a great day.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye, thank you.